Hi folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode, we are reviewing Tremulus from Reality Blurs, written by Sean Preston himself. Ladies and gentlemen, what is Tremulus? Well, I gotta start with this. It's this damn sexy little book. I mean, it's not particularly big. It fits nicely into your bag. It can look like you're reading a novel while you're going through it. It is very, very minimalist in its approach. Take a look at the cover. You've got the title, you've got a little bit of offset art down there, that spiky tentacle, ew. And on the inside as well, the entire book is aimed at the theme that it's trying to get across to you, which is basically, this is a storytelling game of Lovecraftian horror. What does all that mean? Well, the engine for this is a modified version of the system originally seen in Apocalypse World and Dungeon World. Now, it's been really stripped down and reconfigured for a horror game. So, how does this work? Well, generating your characters are really dead dog easy, and so is setting up a game. They go hand in hand together. You can have characters made, your settings set, and your GM ready to go within probably 20 minutes of sitting down to play. This is great for the nights where, oh, I'm sorry guys, I can't make it. I got tickets for a Swedish rock concert in the cities and I gotta go to that instead. Or, sorry guys, I'm sick, I can't make it in. Or something else that's come up, but you still got 3 or 4 players who want to get together and do something. So you can fire off Tremulus pretty easy. Making characters is a piece of cake. Each one of them comes from a playbook, which is what they're called in this, which is a preset template of what your character can do. So let's take a look at one here. Let's just take a look. One of these is called, we'll go with the first one, which is the Alienist. This is your investigator into the strange psychology of others. When you make your character, what you lead off with is this. You have a name, and it even gives you sample names if you'd like. For example, for the Alienist, you have Dr. Gunther Hess, Miriam King, or Dr. Harmsworth. All right, circle one of those you like. Choose one of each of the looks from under the categories. Just gives you a brief skeleton of what your character looks like and is capable of. Then you get into the moves, which is where the action of this really comes in. What the moves do is they provide you with what your character can do. And the basic moves that all characters have: act under pressure, convince people, help or hinder somebody else, poke around, read a person, resort to violence, stuff like that. And all of these are a roll plus one of your attributes. Now, the attributes are a pretty easy 5 to remember. They're reason, passion, might, luck, and affinity. Okay? And it even gives you sets to choose from. So you could, if you really wanted to, you could have your alienist have a reason of +1, a passion of +2, a might of +1, a luck of -0, and an affinity of -1, and an affinity of 0. There's several of them, 4 specifically, that you can choose from that fill in those numbers. There's a health track, there's a sanity track, and then you get into your specific moves for each one of your characters. The Alienist, again, you start with the basic moves and therapy, which is you talk to people to restore their sanity. Then you get to pick 2 special ones. And then folks, once you get that done, you start with a certain amount of gear, you choose 2 of the following things, and you're ready to go. Like I said, character creation is really quick, and the engine itself is a piece of cake. The engine itself is a really piece of cake thing to do. You throw 2d6, you add in the numbers, you compare it to a target value. The game itself, easy to get going. The thing that I find the most appealing about this book, and I will wax poetical about this for as long as you give me to do. Setting generation operates like this. There are 7 questions, well, 2 sets of 7 questions that you present your characters with. And they have to answer yes to 3, and only 3 of those 7. Now, the first set is, what do you think to be real about this town and its people? Are the locals friendly? Do they exhibit strange behavior? Is it an old community? Does the town have a tragic past? Are there any secret societies? Are the landmark buildings in disrepair? And is the economy on decline? Answer yes to 3 of those. Then, at the flip side of that, there's what's the weirdness that you've heard about? Strange lights in the area, ghostly sightings, incident of mass murder, reports of flying creatures, dark rituals, madness amongst the townfolk, or any old ruins or buildings in the town. Write down the answers to that, and then it goes into a code. It goes into a code that you can read for this. So, for example, if you decide the locals are friendly, they exhibit strange behavior, and it's an old community, that's ABC. And then the local color, or the investigator notes, a nice old town. On the surface, Evan Eves, which is the town in question, may have been a destination once upon a time, but that time has passed. No kids walk the street. Folks are graying and nice enough in a drugged haze, dream fugue sort of way, except for the handful whose eyes are sharp and their smiles are predatory. Then you go to local color 1, and it gives you some more information. I won't go into any more than that because there are secrets in each one of the towns. Folks, there are dozens of settings in the back of this book for you to choose from. Each of them with their own creepy touch, each of them with their own little brilliant ideas, and it's very bare bones skeletal. I think this game requires the right group and players. If your players like to get together, kick down doors, and kill stuff and be the murder hobos of myth and legend, then probably this is not going to be the game for you. But if you have a group that is willing to invest into the creepy, that is willing to poke around and get into the dark crevices of a setting, this is the game for you. It is much more streamed down than most other horror games. It is completely player-facing, which means the GM doesn't roll dice. The GM simply narrates the situation and the environment around the player's actions. I really love this game. Its simplicity is beautiful. The idea of the playbooks is fantastic, especially for the busy GM or players. Campaign play is very definitely possible here. Nominally, it is set in the 1920s, but there's no reason you can't scale that up or back. You might have to adjust the buying power a little bit and use some sense where this works, but we have to change it to something else here for a Victorian setting. But it works just as well. And the sheer number of setting possibilities in the back is awe-inspiring. I like to describe this game as Sean Preston's first magnum opus. And I say this not because he scares me, but I say this because I've watched through his blog, through a few personal conversations about the development of this game from its inception to where it is now, and how it spread out in terms of the ideas and how it became this thing you see before you. There are a variety of character playbooks for you to choose from. The classic playbook has what you would normally expect from a Call of Cthulhu campaign. For instance, alienist, antiquarian, author, detective, a devout character, a dilettante doctor, heir, journalist, professor, or salesman. There are additional sets of playbooks for asylums. It's just one of them, for example, where your characters work in and around an asylum or are inmates in said asylum. If you enjoy horror, if you want to take a more internal approach to it, where you have to analyze your character's motivations deeply, because there's not a lot of game mechanic here for you to get hung up on. It's really very straightforward. I cannot recommend this highly enough, folks. It's fantastic. Go take a look. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.